There is one sentence, just one, that when said to a woman at the right moment, does something almost nothing else can do. It makes her nervous system relax around you. Not impress her, not entertain her. Relax. And here is what makes this strange. It is not romantic. It is not clever. It does not sound like anything a pickup artist would teach you. In fact, when I tell you what it is, you might feel a little underwhelmed. You might think, that's it? That's the sentence. But stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why this one sentence does more for a woman's trust in you than 100 compliments ever could. And you are also going to realize how many times you had the chance to say it and said something else instead. Let me ask you something first. Have you ever been talking to a woman, everything seemed fine, the conversation was flowing, and then somewhere in the middle of it, she just changed. Her energy dropped. Her answers got shorter. She started looking at her phone. And you sat there afterward replaying the whole conversation in your head, trying to figure out what you did wrong. Most men chalk this up to mystery. They think women are just unpredictable, that you can do everything right and still lose her interest for no reason. But that is not what happened. Something happened in that conversation, a moment where she needed something specific from you, and you gave her something else instead. And today I am going to show you exactly what that moment looks like and the one sentence that fixes it before it ever becomes a problem. Here's what almost nobody understands about how women build trust. Trust is not built through grand gestures. It is not built through how much money you have, how good you look, or how smoothly you talk. Dr. Stephen Porges, the psychiatrist behind what is known as polyvagal theory, spent decades studying how the human nervous system decides, often without conscious thought, whether another person is safe. His research found that the nervous system is constantly scanning for what he calls cues of safety, small, almost invisible signals that tell the body it can lower its guard. And here is the important part. Verbal reassurance rarely works as a cue of safety. Saying, "You can trust me," does almost nothing. What works instead is something far more specific. And it has to do with how you respond in the exact moment she reveals something vulnerable. Think about that for a second. A woman does not decide to trust you because you told her to. She decides to trust you based on how you handled the 1 or 2 moments where she let her guard down even slightly. And most men completely miss those moments because they are looking for the big, obvious signs of connection, laughing at their jokes, agreeing with them, giving compliments. Meanwhile, the real test is happening quietly, underneath the surface, in a moment that looks like nothing at all. So let's talk about what that moment actually looks like, because once you see it, you are going to start noticing it everywhere. It happens when a woman says something slightly negative about herself. Something small. Maybe she says, "Sorry, I talk too much." Or, "I probably sound crazy right now." Or, "I'm not usually like this." These little self-deprecating comments seem like nothing. Most men respond with a joke, or worse, they agree, thinking it's playful banter. But here's what's actually happening underneath. That sentence is a test. It's a tiny, low-stakes way of asking, is it safe to be imperfect around you? Will you judge me, or will you accept me? And how you answer that question in the next 3 seconds shapes whether she opens up further or quietly closes the door. This is where the one sentence comes in. When she says something like that, something small and self-critical, the sentence that changes everything is this: "I like that about you." Not, "You're not talking too much." Not, "Don't worry about it." Not a joke to smooth over the moment. Just 5 words, said calmly, directly, with eye contact. "I like that about you. I know what you're thinking." That's it. That's the secret sentence.
Yes.
And the reason it works is not because of the words themselves. It's because of what those words communicate underneath. When you say, "I like that about you," you are doing 3 things at once, and none of them require her to say anything back. First, you are confirming that you actually noticed what she said, not just heard it. Second, you are telling her that the thing she was nervous about, the thing she almost apologized for, is not a flaw in your eyes. It is something you genuinely appreciate. And third, And this is the part most men never think about. You are showing her that you are not the kind of man who needs her to be perfect or polished around you. You are showing her that your interest in her does not depend on her performing. Dr. Brené Brown, whose research on vulnerability has shaped how modern psychology understands connection, found something remarkable in her studies. She discovered that trust is built in what she calls small moments, not through big declarations, but through what she terms marble jar moments, tiny instances where someone shows up for you in a way that adds one more marble to the jar. Enough marbles and trust exists. Not enough, and it never does, no matter how many grand gestures follow. And here's the thing I like that about you. It is one of the fastest, most reliable ways to drop a marble in that jar because it responds directly to a moment of vulnerability with acceptance instead of correction. Now let me show you why most men get this exact moment wrong, because understanding the mistake is just as important as understanding the fix. When a woman says something self-critical, most men do one of three things. The first mistake is joking about it. She says, "Sorry, I'm being so awkward right now." And he laughs and says, "Yeah, you kind of are." He thinks he's being playful, building banter. But her nervous system does not receive that as playful. It receives it as confirmation. She said something vulnerable, and instead of catching her, you agreed with the fear underneath it. That's a mark against the jar, not a deposit into it. The second mistake is dismissing it too quickly. She says, "I probably sound crazy right now." And he says, "No, you don't worry about it," and immediately changes the subject. This feels polite on the surface, but here's what it actually communicates. It tells her that her feeling is not worth discussing, that you would rather move past the moment than sit in it with her. It's efficient, but it's not connecting. She wanted acknowledgement, and instead she got dismissal disguised as reassurance. The third mistake, and this one is sneaky because it looks like the right move, is overcompensating with a big compliment. She says something small and self-critical, and he responds with, "Are you kidding? You're literally the most amazing person I've ever met." This might feel generous, but it actually creates distance, because now the moment has shifted from her small, honest vulnerability to a grand statement that feels disconnected from what she actually said. It's too much, too fast, and it makes the interaction feel performative instead of genuine. She doesn't trust it because it doesn't match the size of what she offered. Compare all three of those to the simple, calm response. "I like that about you." No joke, no dismissal, no inflation, just a direct acknowledgement of the exact thing she was nervous about, met with quiet acceptance. That's what creates the feeling of safety, because it is proportional, honest, and specific. Now here's something that will make this even more powerful once you understand it. This sentence does not work because of magic. It works because of a psychological principle called mirroring vulnerability with steadiness. When a woman shows a small crack in her armor and your response stays calm, warm, and grounded, her nervous system learns something important about you. It learns that you do not panic, judge, or overreact when she is imperfect. And once her nervous system learns that, it starts to relax more and more each time you interact, because it has evidence, real evidence, not just words, that being around you is safe. Let me give you a real scenario so you can see exactly how this plays out. You are on a date. Conversation is going well. At some point, she shares something a little embarrassing, maybe a mistake she made at work, or a weird habit she has, something she clearly feels a little self-conscious about. She laughs nervously afterward and says, "Okay, that was probably too much information." Most men would laugh along or brush past it, but you pause for half a second, look at her, and say, "I like that about you." Not with a smirk, not as a line, just calmly, like it's obvious. Watch what happens next. She doesn't just smile, something shifts in her posture. Her shoulders drop slightly. She might even go quiet for a second, because she wasn't expecting to be met like that. And in that quiet moment, something important just happened. She learned that she can be herself around you, unfiltered, unpolished, and you will not flinch. This is why this one sentence works far better than compliments about her appearance or her achievements. Compliments about how she looks or what she's accomplished feel good, but they don't build trust the same way. because they don't respond to vulnerability. They respond to performance. Anyone can compliment a woman's smile or her success, but responding to her insecurity with calm acceptance, that requires you to actually be paying attention. And she knows the difference. Her nervous system knows the difference, even if she couldn't explain it in words. Here's where this gets even more important. This sentence is not something you say once and then move on. The moments where it applies come up constantly if you know how to spot them. Anytime a woman shares something and immediately softens it, apologizes for it, or downplays it, that is your cue. Sorry, I'm rambling. I know this sounds dumb, but I probably shouldn't have said that. Every one of these phrases is a small vulnerability wrapped in a protective layer, because she is testing the water before fully committing to being open. And every single time, your response has the power to either confirm her fear that she needs to hide parts of herself or prove to her that she doesn't. Now I want you to understand something deeper, because this connects to a pattern that shows up across almost every relationship that eventually falls apart. Dr. John Gottman's research, which I've referenced before, found that the number one predictor of relationship failure was not conflict, not communication style, not even compatibility. It was something he called negative sentiment override, a state where a person starts interpreting even neutral or positive actions from their partner through a negative lens because trust has eroded so much that safety no longer exists as a default. And here's the connection. That erosion doesn't usually start with one big betrayal. It starts with hundreds of small moments where vulnerability was met with judgment, dismissal, or indifference instead of acceptance. Which means the sentence I'm teaching you today is not just a trick for early attraction. It is a habit that, repeated consistently, prevents the exact pattern that destroys long-term relationships. So let's bring this together, because I want you to leave this video with something you can actually use tonight, tomorrow, in your very next conversation with a woman. The next time she says something small and self-critical, something she immediately tries to downplay or laugh off, do not joke about it. Do not dismiss it. Do not overcompensate with an oversized compliment. Just pause, look at her, and say it plainly. I like that about you. Let it sit there. Do not explain yourself further. Do not add a joke afterward to break the tension. Just let those 5 words do their work. Because here is the truth about trust that most men never learn. It is not built in the big moments. It's not built on the perfect date, the perfect message, the perfect first kiss. It's built in these small, quiet exchanges where she shows you an unfiltered piece of herself and you respond with steadiness instead of judgment. Every time you do that, you are not performing for her. You are proving something to her nervous system, something words alone could never prove. And once that proof accumulates, once enough of those small moments happen, something shifts. She stops testing you because she already knows the answer. She starts opening up faster, sharing more, letting her guard down sooner, not because you chased her or convinced her, but because you showed her again and again that she does not have to hide with you. Now, if this changed the way you think about building trust with a woman, do me a favor before you go. Leave a comment below with the word steady. Just that one word. I want to see how many of you actually made it to the end and are ready to apply this, because the men who comment are the men who actually change how they show up. And one more thing before you go. Knowing what to say in these moments is only half of it. The other half is knowing how to read her energy so you catch these moments before they pass you by. I made a video breaking down the exact signals a woman gives off right before she's about to open up emotionally, and most men miss every single one of them. It's on your screen right now. Go watch it. Because once you combine what you just learned with that video, you will never miss another moment like this again.